and then we'll just go from there. Okay, so the big thing is for my Terran opponent, and I talked about this earlier. Depending on how I feel this cast is, and I'm actually recording it now. I might put this one up instead. Just so as you can, and the big thing I do versus what you do is I rally out my probes, like for at least for the first little bit where it my 10 to 12 probe, my
Oh, I see.
9
Yeah.
probe, instead of pulling them off the line, because then they could still mine while I have that one free probe that's not mining to keep going and do all my other scouting for me. So if we take it to my view and go
Yeah,
from
I'm on your view and watching for your camera right now.
yeah, and I don't have extremely high APM, but it's like, I know I do top pretty high when I in certain situations, just like most people will. But as
So that's this scout that you just saw. You see no gas. You see one barracks.
yeah,
Well, no gas yet, but
well there is well okay, so he's doing no gas, and he has an orbital on the way. I can assume two things. He's either going to fast expand or throw down 2 more racks. So I gotta assume that he's gonna do something like that. Well, as you'll see in a few seconds. Now I do get. Eventually, I'll get to get in the warp gate. There we go. So since my warp gate was behind, I do chrono boost it, but I don't typically chrono boost my warp gate. It's just not part of my style. It's just, or at least my strategy. So as you see that he's actually coming up to scout me. He hasn't scouted me yet. So he has no idea what I'm doing, nor anything else. He just wants to see what he can find. But his guy dies before he can see anything. And you'll see that now I'm a big fan of early pressure because of the fact that it's supposed to throw your opponent off pretty heavily.
yeah.
And
See, whenever I try early pressure, some other large unit goes totally. We totally yin and yang the middle of the map, and he comes in and he totally destroys all of my probes.
So I'm going to pause it here. And okay, as you see, all I see is Marines. That's a lot of Marines. Yep. Okay, so that instantly tells me if we go to the everyone can. I was kind of right about the racks because he's got 6 racks going down. Oh no, 5 rack. He has 5 racks and a factory.
Serious?
Yeah, he's got 5 racks and a factory on the way.
And only 2 tech labs.
2 tech labs. He's not producing out of those tech labs yet. He's
double.
But he's got double gas, and he just now took his gas. He's only been mining gas for a little bit of time. He mined enough to get this factory, and he's getting enough for that. But because of all those Marines, that's I already the Zealots are gonna die anyways. So as we zoom the game, the Zealots die anyways. So I have an idea that he's gonna do a counterattack. So you're going to see him push out. So I'm going to get ready for this counter. I got my mothership core out. And now it's kind of now I'll always keep my mothership core on a different hotkey because I don't want it hotkeyed with my army because automatically the abilities overshadow the sentry's abilities. So if I hit F,
that's one of the big problems I have with the mothership core so far. Is I want to use it and I want to learn it, but I haven't found a place for it yet.
I whiffed that force field so bad.
That was a little off, yeah.
But because of the fact that my mothership core's ability, because of this nice little ring here, he can't get in. Well, he can, but the planetary nexus does so much damage. Just in general. Now here he comes again with his units.
That was just trickle. I think that was a bad rally point.
Yeah, it was a bad rally point. He actually re-rallied them, as you can see in the middle of the map. Even in my vision, I actually have vision of this.
Yep.
Where he's got the siege tanks and he's got the Marines. And me and this guy actually talked for a little bit after the game. And I told him I was surprised I won. And he said he was surprised I won too, considering how much damage he was doing to me. And he kept sniping my observers, which was really bad. Because that's more time that takes away from my Colossus production every time I got to build an observer. And the only reason I got Colossus out is because of look how many Marines, you know. So he's got the Marines out. There's a better force field, so now he can't get up. I was trying to cut the army in half, but half his army did not come up with it. So I was like, oh well. And I can't move down because I don't know, because I saw a siege tank, so I don't know if the siege tanks are still sitting in the middle of my natural. And so once the observer comes out, and you also see
you'd be able to see the siege line, wouldn't you? You'd be able to see the dotted line of.
No,
do you not get that?
No, you don't get it when you. It's only when you click on the unit, but you don't see it in general. Like when you see like a sensor tower, you'll always see that. But you never see like the whole, like a sentry. You know, you never get to see like that. You'll always see the ring of the scan until it's done. So now that I know he's not there, and I know he was over here because of the Zealot warping over off the cliff. So I know he's out of position to really try to do anything. So I have to move my observer further out. And there's the one Marine. I was wondering what was attacking, so I was like, well, okay, I don't want to kind of move my whole entire army out of position, so I'll just take one unit out. And it's
that's what I need. I need to approach decisions more calmly, because usually when I see anything happening, I think, oh crap, take everything and kill it. I panic far too often. I'm actually more relaxed than I was when I was in bronze, but I panic and do too many crazy things that I shouldn't be doing. But most of my mistakes come from, I'll overcompensate everything.
Yeah.
Like you saw in that last game when I saw roaches, I thought, oh, build a Stargate and a second robo facility and kill everything.
No, it's
just an overreaction.
Yeah, it's one of those things you gotta just kind of take your time on. But you notice how I took these gases kind of instantly after they were built.
Yeah.
And so you just gotta keep watching that. A lot of that is from the right side of or the left side of your screen will always tell you what's been built and what's been. It kind of give you tips on what's going on. And as you can see, I'm actually doing a lot of damage in his base. And automatically I see Thor and Raven. I was like, oh, okay, well that's. So I mean but the big thing is that because I had DTs, I need to take out the CC first, just for the fact that it needs to be. It'll be the one thing that will kind of hinder me because of scans, and I don't want. And if they're gonna waste the scan, it automatically.
Whoa. Why did he walk away with that many Vikings?
Oh, he has a
snipe.
Well, watch how he's moving his Vikings though, and then watch how I move my Colossus.
You put him in behind the stalkers.
Yeah, because I'm still having vision of them, so I'm trying to keep as much as I can, but I can't move them down. And there's my DT. Okay, I'm gonna give you a tip. So this line here, for the scan. Okay, you know how it still sees everything? Well, I found out in one of my other games that this scan still stays remnant even though the line is gone. So you need to wait an extra 2 seconds for it to fully be gone after the yellow is gone. So
I remember that one from Wings of Liberty actually. I mean, it didn't come up all that often, but I always thought when I'm putting down tech after someone's scanned, I always wait for any remnant of the scan to go away, and then just kind of a 1, 2, okay, now.
Yeah, it's one of those things.
And you have that little beat.
Yeah, because
there you go. Yeah.
Because I started my my DTs. I was like, well, I gotta stutter them out. And I keep my Colossus in the back because now the big thing I'm doing is that I'm no longer building Colossus. There's no reason for me to build Colossus. Look how many Vikings there are. I don't have enough. I don't have enough army or anti-air to defeat all those Vikings. And as you can see, his Vikings are actually moving to a different location. I actually lost my Warp Prism here, so that was bad for me in general. But it's okay. I wall off their ramp here, and also I'm getting attacked by Vikings in the back. But it's okay. This base was already fully mined out anyways. All I lost was a DT shrine. So not a big deal. On top of that, I keep force fielding this ramp, even though I can't see up it. It still it still keeps a lot of his units kind of trapped up there. So, but if you take a look at the upgrades, you'll see he has a +1 ship armor and nothing for his infantry. So his bioforce is almost useless.
Yeah.
Compared to my 1-1 army. And that was a big thing I was doing in the midst of most of these attacks, was always trying to get my upgrades up, because I knew he wasn't getting his upgrades. I had a feeling of that. I was like, okay, he's not getting upgrades. What can I do? So, oh.
I'm just surprised from his play, because I mean, that's the thing. When I'm in silver, going up against someone in silver, I'm going up against someone who comes in at me, and they've got, you know, 2/2 Marine Marauder, Medevac comes at me, full on hit, and I think, where'd you come up with that?
Well, it's because they've been, because it's one of those things that they're instantly done. Now you see that I took the high temps, trying to get, because it's now a useless fight for me to try to keep up with the Colossus count, or keep my Colossus up. So high temps are always good. Even though I do lose that base. Yeah.
It's the Thors that I'd be worried about, and I never really know what to do with Thors. Would Archons?
You want to get Immortals versus Thors and Charge Watch versus Thors.
Okay. So you can, I mean, right now you're pretty much sticking to kind of a gateway, but with, you know, high temp tech at the same time. So
yeah, it's just a gateway army. I changed it up a bit just for the fact that all I'm seeing is mass Marines, and I can't. And since I've seen so many Vikings, and I don't know if I killed all of them, I don't know what I'm looking for. Is that I'm trying to figure out what his army comp is kind of being. I saw a couple of Thors, but he didn't tech the Thors, which is, he didn't really fully commit to them.
Yeah, it wasn't a monstrous amount of them. It was just one or two.
Yeah, and then over here, he'll start kind of getting to my army a little bit, and it's a little bit annoying, with the drops.
Oh yeah.
But it's just one of those things. Is every so often I'll actually be able to snipe, and I can't really feedback it because of the fact that it's just my high temps move so slow versus Medivac's. It's just not worth trying to get it.
Chasing after it.
Yeah, it's let's see, like the game you casted of mine, where I didn't know he was gonna do counterattack. Crazy.
Oh, out of position Vikings, yay!
Yeah. So now this is and here's why I'm gonna slow it down a bit. Now there's a reason I'm pulling my army towards the other side over here, versus kind of keeping it near the ramp. It's because I still have my high temps here, and I can snipe this ramp, or I can storm this ramp pretty well, because it's automatically. I want the units to always cluster towards me. So as you'll see that they'll cluster, and you'll see my observers die.
Yeah, there they go. Oh well.
Yeah, but the big thing with that is that I wanted to make sure, and then here comes that small army, and they can't really come at me because of the fact that he's got storm.
Clumped up bio, and I was just gonna die instantly.
And so yeah, he pretty much committed to that, and it was like. So he pretty much did what he could, and all of a sudden he didn't have too much. As far as I told him, his lack of upgrades is what killed him. He's like, yeah, I know. That was the one thing I totally forgot. I was like,
that and his money was getting a bit high.
Well, with Terran, your minerals are always going to be high anyways. It's your gas that will always climb for them. But he's got a lot of what is he producing? Medevacs and Marines.
Medevacs and Marines.
Which is okay against, but he has no. But once I get high Templar out and stuff, because once I get high temps out, it's going to be a storm fest. So it was like Yeah, it was like one of the games that you cast into mine that took where you were doing on ×2 speed.
Because it was so long, so I just thought, hey, you know what? Why not? Let's just do
it. Which was amusing to me. I was like, oh, okay. I didn't think you were gonna do that game. And then I know I wrote in the email like you didn't have to cast these ones. I just wanted to show you so that way you kind of have an understanding of the transitions, what to feel and how to look for these types of transitions. And it's pretty and it's one of those. I got one gas guys with 4 in them. That's crazy. Oh well, but it's just one of those things that you gotta have a feel for when you gotta transition out of one thing to another, unless you know that you can keep going with that same tech path. But because of how many Vikings there were, I cannot keep building Colossus, so I had to go straight to ground. And yeah, and the real thing with that is that you got to just kind of watch for that stuff too. So if you've seen a bunch of medevacs kind of floating around, high temps are good because once you get feedback on them, medevacs become almost useless. And then on top of that, dealing almost, depending on how full the medevac is, as far as energy, it's almost an instant death blow. Like they can't do anything to that. Oh wow, always got left.
I just don't really tech up to high temps all that fast, mostly because I'm still trying to work on almost mastering the just the lower level thing. So I'm still not quite lost. I'm lost in late game. I'm slightly befuddled in mid game, and early game is just, you know, I'm hit or miss, but I'm feeling a lot more confident about that part of the game. Okay. And just sort of trying to transition from one to the next to the next. And I think one of the things that really seems to be just holding me back is the ability of scouting and sight and vision and awareness. Yeah. And awareness of more than one thing. Like awareness of where his army is and where it's coming from is one thing, but also the other thing is awareness of, oh, it's 8 minutes, I should be expecting this. Yeah. Or it's 10 minutes in, my opponent will have this by now, or it's a 14-minute Zerg game. Where them Hydra's at?
Yeah, no. That's the main thing I do with my pretty much aggression builds. Because I'm not really super aggressive with them unless I know I can be. But it's another way to scout and throw them off their attack paths. Because, you know, like I said, everything's done by timings. If by 8 minutes I don't see this, then they're going this. But if I throw them off prior to the 8 minutes, they can't go that tech path because they don't have the resources and the army capability to pull that off. So if they're gonna do a drop at 8 minutes, that's not really good for them because of the fact that I just took out a good chunk of whatever they needed for them to do that drop. So, you know, Terran does doom drops. Well, you know, like that. Great example is that one game where I had map awareness of that drop coming in. You know, where the warp prism saw it because I was actually focused on the warp prism, trying to do a warping, and then because it didn't fly by my observer, and that drop in that long game, because I looked over it again. I'm like, did my observer even spot that? No, it didn't. It didn't spot. It spotted maybe one medevac, but it because of the flight path it took, it missed my observer. And I was like, okay, well, I got my high temps. As long as I could feed back a good chunk of those before they hit the ground or before the drop commences, I'm okay. And you know, I was like, well, here goes nothing. And I did. And that drop was meant to really just kill me. That was it. That was supposed to be the end game drop, where it was like, well, okay, my army's way out of position of this, and I can't do. And now all of a sudden, I lost all my tech, or I got to pull my army from the ramp, and then all of a sudden, I'm getting charged up the ramp. So it's like, well, you know, why not just take, you know, the small amount of units I have and just use them for what they need. It's just a lot of it boils down to is where your opponent's going to be and how you think they're going to be, and where that transition is going to always follow. So as long as you have kind of an idea of what's going to happen, then it'll kind of work itself the way it should.
Yeah.
So okay. Let's see. I know